Hari Om. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to this 13th and penultimate session of Gita Jayanti celebration. Today, we are going to study 6 selected shlokas from 14th chapter named as Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. After the study of Gita shlokas, Dr. Anupama Shetty is going to enlighten us with the meaning of that great mantra, Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam, which we chant while doing Maha Mangalarati to God after all the pujas. Today's chanting of Gita shlokam from chapter 16 will be done by Srimati Shyamala and Srimati Meenakshi. But first, Gita class. Over to you, Hegde sir.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam, Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam, Devaki Paramanandam, Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Continuing our Gita Jayanti festival of revision of the important chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, today we will be touching on the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and this gives me an opportunity to revise the 2 fundamental principles of Vedanta which Swami Paramarthananda ji repeats again and again. The first is, I am other than whatever I experience. I experience the world around me. I am not the world. This is very easy for us to say, but the real problem comes when it comes to one's own body. Using the same logic, I need to be very clear. Because I experience this body, I am someone other than the body. I experience my mind, which is trying to explain this fundamental principle of Vedanta. I am not my mind. In other words, using the language of the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the real me, that conscious principle which is speaking through me, is termed as Kshetrajna. And whatever I experience around me is the Kshetram, including my body and mind. Using the terms of Drik-Drishya Viveka, the seer in me, the consciousness in me is the Drik. The world around me, including my body and mind, is the Drishyam. Again, in the 15th chapter, the consciousness principle can be equated to Purusha, and the Anatma, the matter principle, including my body and mind, is Prakriti. What is liberating in this understanding is the seer, the consciousness principle is Satya, and the world around me, including my body and mind, is Mithya. And when you understand this, the byproduct of it will be whatever happens in the world around me, whatever happens to my body, whatever happens to my mind should not affect me, just like one who was awakened from his dream is not affected by any of the dream events. And then the Vedantic principle that I am Brahman and the world is Jagat and Jagat Mithya becomes a liberating knowledge. The second fundamental principle, which will be elaborated when we revise this 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is also titled Gunatraya, Gunathitha Vibhaga Yoga, is just this. All attributes, all gunas that I experience belong to the object of experience, and I, the subject, I am gunathitha. For example, I'm holding this mobile telephone in front of me. This has got certain attributes. It has got a certain weight. It has got certain dimensions. It has got a certain location and space. It has got a date of birth and a date of expiry. All these attributes belong to the object of my experience. I, the seer, am free from all attributes. I am gunathitha. If this is understood, then it is immediately liberating. Why? Because I am no longer restricted by time. I have been there from the very beginning. If there is a beginning, I will be there till the very end if there is an end. If I am not limited by time, the word, Sanskrit word for it is nitya, I am eternal. If I am not limited by space, then I seem to be limited by this body, but this understanding, I am all pervading, just like the mobile signals are all pervading, but it uses a certain instrument to express through. And the consciousness in me is all pervading, not limited by my body, but functioning through my body. So too, I pervade every object in this world, including this body, and not limited by this body. And this is a liberating understanding. Bhagwan Ramana Maharshi has simplified this understanding through his phrase, Naham Deham. I am not this body and mind. And if I'm not this body mind, then who am I? And the word is Koham. And through Guru Shastra Upadesha, I understand that Mahavakya Saha Aham Asmi. I am that. And that is what these chapters of the Bhagavad Gita help us to understand. To recap exactly what I said, if I am not all this, then who am I? I am the illuminator of my body mind. The ego, my real nature is of the nature of Satchit Ananda. I am free from all attributes, therefore I am Nirguna. When I transcend form, when I am beyond form, that is true transformation. What is the aim of all Vedanta? Vedanta has made a wonderful diagnosis. The cause of all my problems is ignorance of my true nature. The correction of all, or solution to all my problems, is correction of this false understanding that I am not this limited body and mind. And this understanding would give me a sense of limitlessness or anantatvam. And that is what is all about moksha. How do I remember this throughout my transactions? Remember the picture of Sri Dakshinamurti, whose right leg is always on that demon called apasmara or forgetfulness. Whenever we see the picture of Nataraja, Nataraja's leg is also all the time anchored on apasmara or forgetfulness. There is this beautiful uh, verse from Adi Shankara, which goes, Mano Buddhi Hankara Chittani Naha, which repeats that I am not this body, not this mind, not this Ahankara. Then who am I? Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Again, how do I remember this in my daily life? Whenever possible, remain in satsanga. Satsanga is in company of people who are committed to sat or truth. Satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatvam jivan muktihi. With this background, let us enter the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The opening verse will be explained to us by Mamata Shankar. Over to you, Mamata.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñātva Munayas Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha. Next slide, sir. This shloka emphasizes three salient points. One, the importance of the knowledge of the true self, Brahman. Second, the qualifications required to attain this knowledge. And finally, the third one, the end result achieved by gaining this knowledge. Lord Krishna begins this chapter by re-emphasizing the statement about the glory of the self-knowledge or Brahman. Shankaracharya says that when the subject matter is very subtle, a teacher has to reiterate it again and again. For example, knowledge for us usually means academic, professional, or any other type of worldly knowledge. This knowledge can be accessed with the senses and the mind. However, the knowledge of the self is that knowledge that reveals what the subject is, what the I is, and that is why it is very subtle. We are conditioned to mistakenly identify ourselves with the body, mind, and thoughts. Krishna, in order to remove this hard conditioning, this deep programming within Arjuna, which in turn implies to all of us, repeats the importance of this knowledge. In the next slide, Sri Krishna continues to teach Arjuna and he says, I shall once again teach you Atmajnanam, the self-knowledge, that is Param Uttamam Jnanam. Sri Shankaracharya talks about Param and Uttamam, both meaning the greatest, which is used to glorify the Atmajnanam. He explains the subtle difference associated with its usage. The first greatest, that is Param in the verse, indicates knowledge which is associated with the greatest reality, Atma or Brahman in the world. The second one, Uttamam, means the result that we derive out of this greatest knowledge, the Phalam, which is also the greatest. The outcome of this Phalam is moksha or liberation. The result of attaining the greatest knowledge, that is Atma or Brahman, is imperishable moksha. All other types of knowledge can only give the perishable artha, kama, dharma. This is the key message in this verse. In the next slide, sir, Lord Krishna further talks about who is fit to gain this knowledge. He says, by gaining this greatest wisdom, the Atmajnanam, Sarve Munayaha, all the seekers attain moksha. Munihi in this context means seekers who have got necessary qualifications. That is the 4 Ds: discrimination, dispassion, discipline, and desire. In other words, sadhana chatushchaya sampatti. In the last slide, such seekers will attain param siddhim, the highest accomplishment in life, that is moksha or liberation. This liberation not only while living, which is called jivan mukti, but itaha, even after death, which is videha mukti. We can aptly summarize this verse by a shloka in Kenopanishad. Iha cheda vedi datha satyamasti na chediha vedin mahati vinashtihi, which means life is validated and meaningful only when this knowledge about the true self is attained. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Mamta, for a very nice beginning of the 14th chapter, very clear explanation of the first verse, giving the real importance of whatever we are studying. And also the quote from Kenopanishad, which says the importance of this knowledge, because if this knowledge is not there, our loss is so intense. Dr. Sanjay, if you can explain the next verse for us.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. My verse is the verse 5th of the 14th chapter. Sattvam rajastvam iti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibandanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Sattva, rajas and tamaha, these are the 3 gunas. These 3 gunas are born out of prakriti, born prakriti sambhava. And they are fastened, nibandhanti, in this body, avyayam dehinam. The changeless self, which is your inner nature, is separate from this, and this is the teaching which Krishna wants to give to Arjuna. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, these 3 are the gunas born out of Prakriti, and they fasten the changeless self in the body, O Arjuna. Next slide, please. The mind-body complex obtains its sentience because of the original consciousness, which we have known from various previous discussion, which is what is called as the Chidabhasha also. In the Vedantic language, the mind has a subtle nature, which is called as a Prakriti. Now, this mind-body complex and the Prakriti, which works because of the borrowed consciousness, is also called as Ahamkara. And this is important to understand. Now, what is the original consciousness? That is the Sakshi Tattvam. An individual is a mix of Sakshi Tattvam and Ahamkara, which means body plus that consciousness which is being reflected through this medium of existence, which is our mind-body complex. Next slide, please. Whenever an individual uses the word I, it includes a mixture of ahankara and sakshi. So here, Krishna wants to tell Arjuna that you are a mixture of ahankara and sakshi, and you must differentiate between the gunathitha sakshi and saguna ahankara, which means that the sakshi is nirguna and ahankara is saguna. Ahankara is your lower nature and the sakshi is the higher nature. As long as you remain in this ahankara, you cannot avoid the sansara. Now, what is the way to transcend? The only way you can transcend is to your lower ahankara nature and own up to the higher sakshi nature. Next slide, please. This ahankara has 3 gunas because it is made up of prakriti, in which the 3 gunas are embedded. All the 3 gunas, which is sattva, rajas, and tamas, are actually embedded in the prakriti. Now, what is a mind-body complex? Which is equal to prakriti, and it has 3 gunas. So body-mind complex will also have these 3 gunas. So we can have a sattvic ahankara, we can have a rajasic ahankara, and we can also have a tamasic ahankara. And Krishna tells Arjuna, these are all sansari ahankaras. Now, in Sanskrit language, guna means attribute, but it also means a rope or a shackle. So guna rope binds you to the world and never allows you to be free. These 3 gunas, as I told you, are part of Prakriti and are embedded in the universe. In the unmanifested universe, these gunas are in equilibrium and they are in the causal state, which is what we call as the causal states of the subtle existence. When the universe manifests itself, these 3 gunas also manifest, but they are unequally distributed. Now, sattva, which is jnana pradhana, makes an individual cognitive, intellectually active, and he is interested in acquiring all kinds of knowledge. His jnanendriyas are the most active. The rajasa, which makes you mostly karma pradhana, he is an active person. His jnanendriyas are passive and the karmendriyas are more active, especially vak, that your speaking tendency is very, very high in people who have a lot of rajas. Tamoguna, there is suppression of both the activities and there is more of inertia. All these 3 gunas are bound to their attributes and are a limitation, and that is leading to atriptikara tattvam, which is common to all of them. Even satoguna will lead to lack of fulfillment or lack unhappiness. An individual has to transcend the gunas and ahankara and realize his higher gunathitha nature, which is nirguna and is the sakshi ansa. But these 3 gunas have to be used as stepping stone. You need to ascend from tamas to rajas to mostly sattva and even go beyond. So this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, from 5th verse onwards up to 18th verse, Krishna is going to teach about it. And also we have to understand that this dehi, which is our body, is ahankara pradhana, and we have to transcend this state to reach the state of gunathitha. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sanjay Mehrotra. That was a very clear explanation of our true nature as a combination of Prakriti and Purusha, and the Prakriti having the various gunas which limit us and which bind us, useful for transactional purposes, but it can limit us when it comes to our normal nature. Vishwanath, would you explain the next verse, please?
Yeah. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. To analyze the 3 gunas, Lord Krishna has dealt with 3 topics. The first topic is the definition of each guna, which is called the Lakshanam. The second topic is Bandhana Prakasha, which is how each guna binds a person. Finally, Krishna discusses the topic of lingam, the indicator to find which particular guna is dominant in each one of us. Lord Krishna says, when sattva guna is dominant, jnanendriyas will be more operational. When rajoguna is dominant, karmendriyas will be more functional. When tamoguna is dominant, neither jnanendriyas nor karmendriyas will be operational. As students of Vedanta, we know jnanendriyas are the instruments that are responsible for knowledge, and karmendriyas are the instruments that are responsible for activities and actions. With this background, let us look at the verse proper. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upachayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivriddham sattvamityuta. In the verse, dwara means 5 sense organs. Dwarani means Indriyani. Here, Dwaram refers to 5 gates through which we gather knowledge of the external world. When all the 5 sense organs are bright and alert, they have a great absorbing capacity. Thus, we are able to acquire jnanam or knowledge faster and quicker. A person in such a state indicates sattva pradhana person. Therefore, prakasha upajayate means when the sense organs are bright and alert, there is maximum knowledge acquisition. The attributes of such a sattvic person are indicated in the next slide. They are positive, compassionate, gentle, and so on and so forth, as shown in the indicative list of attributes in a sattvic person. One clarification though, we should not understand prakasha as sattvic person will radiate beams of light from their body. We must understand prakasha as radiating calmness and peace. Indeed, we can even sense peace if we are near such a sattvic person, or become calm when we interact with such a person. For example, if you are watching Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi or Eckhart Tolle or Dalai Lama, on the screen itself, we can easily make out that they are filled with calmness and peace. We do not even need to interact with them to find out if they are sattvic in nature. That is the radiance we are talking about in this verse. From our daily practical perspective, who is a sattvic person? Whenever we come across someone who thinks with absolute clarity for a worldly cause, we should know that the sattva is predominant in that person. If our thoughts are towards the well-being of the family, our society, our nation, instead of just our own well-being, we are in a sattvic state. If our mind is sharp, alert, and in the present moment, and in the state of equanimity, then we are in a sattvic state. Hari Om.
Thank you, Vishwanath Belyappa, for another clear and a crisp presentation. Ullas.
Hari Om, sir. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. As we have seen so far, that everything that has been made in the Prakriti is made up of these 3 gunas, whether it is our ahamkar, mind, body, or any other object in the world. And the thing about the gunas is that they bind us. Whether it is a golden handcuff or an iron handcuff, that's a separate thing. But in all these, we are always looking for some kind of a conducive environment. So it is a problem. Now, what is the solution for that? We cannot get rid of these gunas. That is the nature of the Prakriti. But the thing that we can do is transcend these gunas, as we have seen before also, to become a gunathitha. Transcend means go beyond. Going beyond does not mean going beyond in space or time. That 10 years from now, I will become gunathitha if I do these practices. Or if I'll go to Himalaya, I will become gunathitha. Then again, the solution that we have been seeing so far is the right knowledge. The knowledge that I am not this body, I am not this lower self that I generally identify with. I am the higher self, I am the consciousness, I am that witness, sakshi, bhava. Then we can get this mukti. So having known that we need to become gunathita, now Arjun asks questions about how can I identify a gunathita, and there are other two questions also which we'll see in further verses. But for now, in the next slide, we'll see what are the characteristics of this gunathita. This gunathita is detached from body-mind complex. What does that mean is he looks at the body and mind objectively, like any other object in the world. For example, if I wear the glasses, then I still use my glasses, I keep them in a healthy condition, but I don't consider them as myself. Similarly, all the problems of those glasses are not mine. So similarly, all the problems of the body are not mine. This Gunathita also obviously uses his mind, and his mind, being part of the Prakriti, has these three gunas. So he also uses his mind, and it is also a mixture of Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And because he has refined it over time, he has kept it healthy, it is predominantly Sattvic. But nevertheless, it also has Rajasic and Tamasic portions in it. And he's aware, but whenever he becomes more active, more Rajas is getting activated or more Tamas is getting activated, he's fully aware. He can retract whenever he wants from whichever of these gunas, because he is beyond these three gunas. Looking at the verse, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, now Lord is answering Arjuna's question. Now, what are the characteristics of a gunathita? Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava nadveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati. Prakasham, representation of sattva guna, brightness, knowledge. Pravrittim, activity. Moham, delusion. All these three, he is not hating them, na dveshti, na kankshati, does not desire them either. Even when they arise, some pravrittani, or they go away, nivrittani. So whenever a sattva guna is coming, he would not say, oh, I like it. Or when tamas guna is coming, he would hate it. Or when sattva guna is receding, he would say, oh, why this is going. So he is indifferent from all of these. So in the next slide, we'll again see that main things that what a gunathita is, he's indifferent. He does not overreact. He does not get into panic, or he's not extremely indifferent to anything. He knows that these gunas are going to function like that. And this whole play in the world is because of these interactions between the gunas. So he becomes very firm in that knowledge and is now unshaken. Now he takes all his decisions balanced. He accepts his body and mind as they are, uses them as instruments to express himself, and then goes along in the world. So the take home message that we see in the next slide is that these gunas are there in our body and mind, whether we like it or not. And the only solution is to transcend them by the right knowledge. And once we do that, then we become indifferent. We take a step back and then see all these things happening in front of our eyes, and we enjoy the play. We remain indifferent to these changes by abiding in this unchanging knowledge. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Ullas, for another very clear presentation about the characteristics of a gunathita. With special reference, you spoke as one who is beyond, and you explained beyond is not time or space, but beyond is through understanding one remains unaffected. Vinayakan will continue about this gunathita. Vinayakan, please.
Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Nama. So, characteristics of Gunathita is continuing. As Ullasji explained, a Gunathita is one who is detached from his own body-mind complex, and he is able to look at his own body-mind complex as part of the world, and therefore he enjoys an objectivity with regard to his own body-mind complex. So this objectivity, freedom from too much worry and anxiety with regard to one's own body-mind complex, is the indication of a Gunathita. This Jnani or Gunathita, because of his very source of sadhana, enjoys a better health at the body-mind level, because he has gone through Karma Yoga sadhana, Upasana Yoga sadhana, etc. Therefore, his mind is predominantly a sattvic mind. So the verse goes like this: Udasina vadasino gunairyo na vichalyate gunavartanda ityevam yovatishtadi nengate. Lord says, Udasinavat asinaha. Jnani appears as though he is indifferent because when the body falls sick, he does not violently react to this sickness. It appears as though Jnani is indifferent to his health. But Lord Krishna says he is not indifferent. He is as though indifferent means there is no violent reaction. But at the same time, there is no inaction also. Whatever is to be done, he will do to the body. Therefore, Udasinavat means he is balanced with regard to his own body-mind complex. Then Gunai na vijalyate. So in the fluctuation of three gunas, he is not disturbed at all. So whether the mind is Sattva Pradhana or Rajo Tama Pradhana, he is not going to be upset because he knows I am not the imperfect mind. He keeps the mind in a refined condition but detached at all the time. Now, what is his attitude? Guna eva vartande. These three gunas will remain and fluctuate. Everyone and everything in the creation has the three gunas in a different composition. Ityeva means with this knowledge. Avadishtadi means he remains balanced without self-criticism, self-judgment, or low self-image. Yeah, avadishtadi means he remains with a balanced mind. Na ingade means he is not disturbed. Na vichalyade, he is balanced. So this objectivity with regard to one's own body and mind is the indication of the gunathitha or a jnani. Similar explanation Lord Krishna given in the Sankhya Yoga in Sthita Prajna Path. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vinayakan, for a nice explanation of the verse and about the gunathitha. Dr. Sachin will explain the last verse of the 14th chapter. I mean, the last presentation from the 14th chapter. Over to you, Sachin.
Hari Om, everyone. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Actually, this verse is again explaining about gunathitha, but in a different way. I will go through the verse first. Mam chayo vebicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Next slide, please, sir. So, everyone would like to be the gunathitha, but we have to not forget that everyone has one's duties in the period of time, place, and person. He has to do his saguna form. So as a pole vaulter, he can't just take a jump. He has to start from the beginning. He has to run and then leave the pole to cross over. Similarly, all of us has to do their karma in the right form, that is karma yoga, then the upasana yoga, and finally the nididhyasanam should be continued. In all of these three, the bhakti should be there. This is what the verse is saying. Then only we can cross over. Next slide, please, sir. Then only after leaving these three gunas, we cross over to the higher self. Next slide. The Bhakti Yoga was already described in 12th chapter. I just go through the salient features. We all have to have Bhakti, if not in the highest group, but Sakama Bhakti for our own self, to do our daily routine. Once we get to that level, we can go to the Nishkama Bhakti, where without any kind of returns, without any belongings, you do the work. That is the right way of Karma Yoga. Once we reach there, the next level would be Ishta Devata Bhakti. We should see God at least in one place, one statue, or one Ishta Devata. After that, we have to take a step up, that is Vishwarupa Bhakti. We should see God in each and every person, every living and non-living being. And finally, the real Bhakti is Arupa bhakti, the love of self. Here self meaning your higher self, which is the original consciousness. So this bhakti, in this bhakti yogena sevaya, in this shloka, it should be unswerving, unshakable bhakti. It should not be bhakti where if you don't get something, you will just say, oh God, this is not for me. The next slide, please. Also, there are different types of bhaktas. It was discussed in 7th chapter. This bhaktas should be avibicharena. He should be unflinching at any given moment of time, in any situation. He should be similar to what he was before. So he should be a jignasu bhakta. It should not be only for artha or artharthi. It should be always a jignasu bhakta. He should be always determined in any situation, good or bad, which he faces. Next slide, please. So God says, only then, when he has avibicharana bhakti, then only he will attain to me. That is Brahman. Next slide, sir, please. And already as described, if you have bhakti, you will always come out of the gunathitha, the tamaguna, rajoguna, or saguna. All the three gunas, you will come out of it, and you will be always in shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam. Next slide, please, sir. And then only after leaving all the three gunas, you will be crossing over to the higher self. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for another nice explanation with a very useful illustration of the pole and the pole vaulter. How you make use of your body mind as an instrument, but all the time remember that it is only an instrument, and once your goal has been achieved, you have to learn to gracefully detach, because if you cling on to it, that will be a bondage and it will prevent you from crossing over to a gunathitha status. We now have Dr. Anupama to explain to us a very, very important mantra, na tatra suryo bhati. Let me tell you, we are good on time. Dr. Anupama, take your time to explain this very powerful mantra. I know it is difficult, but explain it in your own way. Over to you.
Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, nema vidyuto bhanti, kuto ayam agnihi, tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam, tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. The essence of this mantra is Atma is ever the experiencer subject. It is never the experienced object. In and through all experiences, the Atma is self-evident. Prati bodha viditam matam. Swayam prakashatvam. Atma is self-evident. It is compared to light because it illumines an Atma. Illumination in Vedanta refers to that in whose presence an unknown object is made known. An illuminator is therefore called light. Jyotishyam Jyoti, light of all lights. Every sense organ is referred to as light. Let's take this example. The nose makes the smell known. Therefore, the nose is called the light or illuminator of smell. The mind illumines the sense organs. Therefore, the mind is called the light or illuminator of sense organs. The consciousness makes the mind sentient. Therefore, it is called the ultimate illuminator or light of all lights. Jyotishyam Jyoti is explained in this verse through three key words: Bhati, Anubhati, and Vibhati. Bhanam, Anubhanam, and Vibhanam. Bha means prakasha or light. What is the meaning of Bhanam? In every cognition, janami, that happens to us in the waking state, two entities coexist. First, jhana, which is revelation of the object, and me, the subject. The process of cognition involves the cognizer, which is self-evident bhanam, and the cognized object, known through the process of cognition, anubhanam. What then is the difference between bhanam and anubhanam? Bhanam refers to I, the Atma, the unchanging Sakshi Chaitanyam. Anubhanam refers to the Anatma, which is constantly changing. Since they often coexist, we erroneously anchor onto or identify with the Anatma and therefore drown in samsara. So, how many illuminators are there? Only one, the Atma. Tam eva bhantam sarvam anubhanti. Let's take this example. Surya bhati, it is self-illuminating. Chandra anubhati, because it borrows luminosity from the sun. What is the difference between bhati and vibhati? When the Atma shines by itself, we call it bhanam. The chit here is manifest as bimba chaitanyam. When Atma manifests through the mind as pratibimba chaitanyam or chidhabhasa, it is called vibhanam. Let's take examples again. During daytime, the sun bhati. On a Purnima night, the sun vibhati via the media of the moon. During Shushupti or deep sleep, Atma Bhati, whereas during the waking state, Atma illumines the world for us through the mind, and that's called Vibhati. Therefore, Bhati is just one Atma, and Vibhati refers to many minds. Vivida Antakarana Indriya Dwara, Vivida Pramana Dwara, Atma Eva Vibhati. That Brahman alone illumines directly or indirectly through media. Tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati. Brahman therefore cannot and need not be illumined. Surya na bhati, the sun cannot illumine Brahman, na Chandra, neither the moon, na Tarakam, nor even the stars, na Vidyut, neither do the flashes of lightning. Kuta ayam agnihi, definitely not the fire which we use as a diya to illumine the Lord. None of these can illumine Brahman. Actually, there is no need because Brahman is self-evident. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for a detailed explanation of this beautiful verse, which we sometimes so mechanically chant during aratis. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, nema vidyuto bhanti, kuto ya agni. Tvameva bhantam anubhati sarva. That means in every experience, let us move from the object of experience to the experiencer, the subject, which is somewhere sometimes ridiculous when you're doing an arati to the Lord to say, it is because of me that you exist. But that is the greatness of Vedanta. The greatness of Vedanta, the emphasis is not on any object of experience. Any object of experience, however great, however divine, however sacred, is always mithya compared to the one who is the experiencer. And that is the glory of ourselves in this particular mantra, na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarak. Today's story meditation is not really a story. Don't expect a story, but it is an incident which Swami Anubhavananda ji shared with us. And in this context of Bhati, Anubhati, Illuminator, and going beyond, I thought it is very relevant. We have all heard this very beautiful composition by Adi Shankaracharya called the Brahma Jnana Valli Mala. The opening verse goes like this, and Swami Brahmananda ji has sung it in such a melodious way, and it is something that we need to put on early mornings and reflect on it. Asangoham, asangoham, asangoham punah punaha, satchidananda rupoham, ahameva avyayam, which means my real nature, which is of the nature of Satchidananda, is Asangaha. It illumines everything just like the sun illumines everything, but it is not affected by that which illuminates. In English, we can explain this by two words, immanent and transcendental. Immanent means something that is in and through. Transcendental is something that is not affected. I'll explain through an example. For example, you see my hand. My hand is illumined by light or prakasha. When the light illumines my hand, if there is some dirt on my hand, the light does not become dirty. If there is some fragrance on my hand, the light does not become fragrant. That means the light is transcendental, although it perfuses my hand very closely like nothing else. As explained by Dr. Anupama, anything that makes objects known, light makes things known. So light is also called Deva. Another example of something that is immanent and transcendental is space. Space is there outside me, space is there within me. But the beauty of space is, although it is in and through everything, it can never be contaminated by whatever it is through. And when it cannot be contaminated, when it cannot be affected, that principle in Vedanta is what Ullas tried to explain as beyond, but it is called asangaha. The same principle applies to Atma. Compared to Akasha and Prakasha, Atma is a conscious principle. Being conscious principle, it is that which can illumine the mind. It can illumine the sense organs. And because mind or light is called Deva, the Atma is called Deva Deva, Jyotisham Api Jyoti, or also called Mahadeva. These terms we should know very clearly. It has already been explained by others in this talk. Now come to that incident which many of us have actually gone through. When you are on a long international flight and when you are about to land, all the service is over, you're just about half an hour before landing or maybe 45 minutes before landing, the air hostess comes and distributes the immigration form. At least this was a practice until some time ago. And when you take out your passport and you begin to fill this immigration form, and in many countries, there are some very strange questions that they ask. But when it comes to immigration and when you're in front of the immigration counter, there is no scope for any humor. You have to be very specific in your answer. Some of the questions they ask is, have there been any criminal cases against you? Yes or no? So very clearly you tick no. Another question in some countries ask, are you a member of any terrorist organization? Yes or no? You have to specify no. Now imagine you are coming into this world as a jiva. You are being brought by an angel on a very special flight into this world. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, Lord Krishna has declared this world as dukkhalaya. And he doesn't want us to come back here. And the word he says is, Mam upetya punara janma dukkhalayam asashwatam. This impermanent world full of sorrow. And as you are entering, the little jiva that you are, the angel will tell you a little prelude, like before you watch a movie in which there is violence, viewer discretion is, you have to have certain discretion. So the angel is telling that little jiva that you are entering to this world. In this world, you will see a lot of misery. You will experience also a lot of misery. The question for you is, will you be miserable? Yes or no? Swamiji says, miseries come and go, but to be miserable is an option, is a choice. And just like will you clearly say no, can we say, I am going to illumine whatever I experience, but I choose not to be miserable irrespective of whatever I see. Now, in our own life, how is it I can illumine and not be affected? I will give you some examples in day-to-day life. Suddenly, your organization that you are part of now says that, because we have done very well this year, you have an unexpected bonus of about 1 lakh of rupees. Now, suddenly today, you're given a news that you are richer by 1 lakh. When you illumine this news, it is going to affect you in a positive manner. Or supposing you get a notice from a government agency that you have a 1 lakh penalty to be paid within 2 weeks. Now you see the news, you illumine, you do get affected adversely. Now I will give you a lot of examples, at least 2 examples in our life, where we illumine but not be affected. And that is what is called being beyond. That is which is called unaffected. Now, a cigarette smoker sees this caution. Cigarette smoking is injurious to health. He illumines it, but is he affected? Not at all. And I'll give you another example, which is a serious example for us to watch. Our teachers repeatedly tell us, Tat Tvam Asi. Does it affect us? We illumine, but we are not affected. So finally, what our Guruji Swamiji says, you are from Karnataka, isn't it? So whenever you see something unpleasant, Karnataka, whatever is appropriate you do, but don't let yourself be affected. Thank you very much. Hari Om. We will conclude today's session by a chanting of the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This will be by Meenakshi and Shamala Shetty. Over to you, Meenakshi and Shamala.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. अथ षोडशोऽध्यायः दैवासुरसम्पद्विभागयोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच अभयं सत्त्वसंशुद्धिः ज्ञानयोगव्यवस्थितिः दानं दमश्च यज्ञश्च स्वाध्यायस्तप आर्जवम्
अहिंसा सत्यमक्रोधः त्यागः शान्तिरपैशुनम् दया भूतेष्वलो लुप्त्वम् मार्दवम् ह्रीरचापलम्
तेजः क्षमा धृतिः शौचम् अद्रोहो नातिमानिता भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातस्य भारत
दम्भो दर्पोऽभिमानश्च क्रोधः पारुष्यमेव च अज्ञानं चाभिजातस्य पार्थ सम्पदमासुरीम्
दैवी सम्पद्विमोक्षाय निबन्धायासुरीमता मा शुच सम्पदं दैवीम् अभिजातोऽसि पाण्डव
द्वौ भूतसर्गौ लोकेऽस्मिन् दैव आसुर एव च दैवो विस्तरशः प्रोक्तः आसुरं पार्थ मे शृणु
प्रवृत्तिं च निवृत्तिं च जना न विदुरासुराः न शौचं नापि चाचारः न सत्यं तेषु विद्यते
असत्यमप्रतिष्ठं ते जगदाहुरनीश्वरम् अपरस्परसम्भूतम् किमन्यत् कामहैतुकम्
एतां दृष्टिमवष्टभ्य नष्टात्मानोऽल्पबुद्धयः प्रभवन्त्युग्रकर्माणः क्षयाय जगतो हिताः
काममाश्रित्य दुष्पूरम् दम्भमानमदान्विताः मोहात् गृहीत्वा सद्ग्राहान् प्रवर्तन्ते शुचिव्रताः
चिन्तामपरिमेयाञ्च प्रलयान्तामुपाश्रिताः कामोपभोगपरमाः एतावदिति निश्चिताः
आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः कामक्रोधपरायणाः ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम् अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्
इदमद्य मया लब्धम् इमं प्राप्स्ये मनोरथम् इदमस्तीदमपि मे भविष्यति पुनर्धनम्
असौ मया हतः शत्रुः हनिष्ये चापरानपि ईश्वरोऽहम् अहं भोगी सिद्धोऽहं बलवान् सुखी
आढ्योऽभिजनवानस्मि कोऽन्योऽस्ति सदृशो मया यक्ष्ये दास्यामि मोदिष्ये इत्यज्ञानविमोहिताः
अनेकचित्तविभ्रान्ताः मोहजालसमावृताः प्रसक्ता कामभोगेषु पतन्ति नरकेषु च
आत्मसम्भाविताः स्तब्धाः धनमानमदान्विताः यजन्ते नाम यज्ञैस्ते दम्भेनाविधिपूर्वकम्
अहङ्कारं बलं दर्पं कामं क्रोधं च संश्रिताः मामात्मपरदेहेषु प्रद्विषन्तोऽभ्यसूयकाः
तानहं द्विषतः क्रूरान् संसारेषु नराधमान् क्षिपाम्यजस्रमशुभान् आसुरीष्वेव योनिषु
आसुरीं योनिमापन्नाः मूढा जन्मनि जन्मनि मामप्राप्यैव कौन्तेय ततो यान्त्यधमां गतिम्
त्रिविधं नरकस्येदं द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्
एतैर्विमुक्तः कौन्तेय तमोद्वारैस्त्रिभिर्नरः आचरत्यात्मनः श्रेयः ततो याति परां गतिम्
यः शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्
तस्मात् शास्त्रं प्रमाणन्ते कार्याकार्यव्यवस्थितौ ज्ञात्वा शास्त्रविधानोक्तं कर्म कर्तुमिहारसि ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे दैवासुरसम्पद्विभागयोगो नाम षोडशोऽध्यायः हरि ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम्
Thank you, Meenakshi and Shamala, for that blissful chanting. Session 13 of Gita Jayanti will conclude with this. On Wednesday, which will be the last session of our Gita Jayanti celebration, let's take up final set of shlokas for our study. I must thank you all once again for the wholehearted support to the Brahma Yajna by way of your Guru Dakshina. Those of you who still want to remit are welcome to do so, to send their arpana. The account details are on the WhatsApp and Telegram group. Please do not forget to fill in the Google form after remitting the amount so that your receipts will reach you. Let's meet Wednesday evening, same time. Please log in before 6:45 p.m. local time. Let's conclude with Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om.